Cross. I'm a professor at the University of Montevallo in the art department, and I'm also an art professor for the Alabama Prison Arts and Education program out of Auburn University.
There were a lot of new ways to help springing up immediately after the tornadoes had passed. How did you get involved?
The next morning, I was on Facebook for my phone and saw that a fellow Montevallo professor was suggesting the Tumors for Tuscaloosa page as a place to find really good information coming out of Tuscaloosa. And so I began following them, and by Friday I began noticing that they were drowning very quickly in the amount of people who were posting on their page and their inability to answer them. And I had come across several places for really good information, Alabama Possible, the local chapter of the Red Cross, and I began answering for them unofficially on their page on Friday, and also had emailed them saying I could set up a Twitter account for them. And by Saturday that had happened. I had set up their Twitter account, and I also was an admin on the Facebook page by that point.
Did you go to Alabama or Auburn?
I went to Birmingham Southern for undergrad, and then I went to graduate school at Alabama, and I now work for Auburn.
You jumped in and you got involved. How many are on right now, at this point, how many are on the Facebook page as fans, and how many are on the Tumors for T-Town Twitter account?
There are about 85,000 on our Facebook page, and we are at about 2,800 for Twitter.
Tell me about managing the Twitter account in the early days when you were seeing what people needed desperately and those random offers of help that were coming in from across the state and probably across the country.
Across the country. It was amazing. I had to prioritize and deal with, usually during the day, I dealt with immediate needs of people within the state on the Twitter account in terms of RTing people who were giving out really good information. James Spann and the local Red Cross and UA Greek Relief. And we kind of all were working in tandem, not officially, just that we all seemed to be able to put in information when others couldn't. So that's what I did during the day. At night is when I would return phone calls of direct messages of people who were all over the country wanting to know what they could do to help, usually a week later, because they were going to have to drive to Alabama. And so they wanted to know, hey, I want to know something past your immediate needs right now. What do you think you're going to need in about a week? Having no experience in relief work, it just became a critical thinking skill for me. Where I started thinking, well, if you're living outside, you're going to need charcoal, you're going to need grills, and you're going to need consumables. Things like diapers for both seniors and children, and consumable foods are things that we're just going to keep meeting. We're not ever going to meet those needs.
It sounds like you had all of a sudden a brand new full-time job. You haven't run, an organization social media account before. What were some of the challenges of doing this, throughout the day and I guess late into the evening?
There were a couple of challenges. One being that my house didn't have power or internet. So having to be somewhere that I could have access to both of those things that was not my home was challenging. The other thing was I'm a really organized person, so that wasn't difficult. But a silly thing was my minutes on my cell phone. We have very limited minutes in our family because we mostly text, and we also are on the same provider, so minutes between ours doesn't count against us. And all of a sudden I'm talking to all these people all over the country, and I'm burning through my minutes. And it was just, again, something you don't think about till it's too late.
Were there some emotional challenges in terms of seeing this constant need for supplies and volunteers and medical assistance and so on?
Yes, I would classify myself as an official marshmallow, and I kept putting aside feelings that of being overwhelmed, of being remarkably sad, because I felt like the job I was doing was so helpful that I could kind of push through a lot of those feelings. But there were nights, and the sleeplessness came from a lot of times of having to process a lot of that information that I had dealt with through or not dealt with through the day.
Well, what's been the most rewarding match, for lack of a better term, to date?
The most rewarding was seeing a post on our page about a little girl who was 9 who'd lost her piano keyboard, and a teacher was willing to provide her further lessons for free if we could find her a keyboard. I posted it on our page, and within 10 minutes there were over 20 offers all over the state of people offering to send her one right away. It was really amazing.
With Joplin, Missouri now facing their own crisis, and with the Mississippi River and so on, what have you learned in the last month that would be helpful to someone who's now starting to manage their own immediate disaster through social media?
They need a minimum of 4 people. And one of those ways that they can keep in touch with each other is through Instant Messenger on Facebook or through some other service like that. That they can all 4 manage their Facebook page in a unified voice, and have one of them running a Twitter account that would echo the information that they're putting on Facebook. Also putting into place some of the things that we did here in Alabama, which is the Alabama Haves, Alabama Needs, We Are Alabama as hashtags. So creating those hashtags early on and being consistent with them will help people filter out the unnecessary information and get straight to what they need in terms of triage, in terms of shelter, in terms of food.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were, the night of the tornadoes, you're watching James Spann on ABC 3340, and you saw him speak last week. I think you had a chance to talk with him. What did you talk with James Spann about?
We talked about our lack of sleep, the intensity of not having yet dealt with our own emotional toll for the situation. We both had lived in Tuscaloosa. James had actually grown up in Tuscaloosa. I'd lived there for 6 years and had taught at the university. We talked about how amazing our state was and how people were coming together, and that was magical to witness.
What do you see going forward with Toomers for Tuscaloosa in terms of how it's going to help now that the immediate crisis has passed and we're moving into a new phase?
We see the next phase as being vehicles for helping people rebuild, period. We've got people without insurance. We have a large majority of poverty-stricken people who need construction help and need construction materials, and we see ourselves as being a vehicle for connecting them with people who are willing to help for free or even at a vastly discounted price. And then we also would like to raise money to help pay for construction materials.
Where can people find Toomers for Tuscaloosa on Facebook and on Twitter?
On Facebook, our URL is facebook.com/Toomers for Tuscaloosa, all spelled out. And on Twitter, we are Toomers with the number 4 T-Town.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.